Welcome to the most important week of the year for the podcast industry. Welcome to Podcast Movement 2025.
Hi, my name is Andy King. I am the head of podcasting for Buchwald. We are a full-service talent agency with offices in New York and Los Angeles. We've been around for about 45 years, and I have been building up our podcasting division now for the last 3 years.
My name is Sim Sarna, and I am the founder and CEO of Cloud10 Media. And we are a podcast network, and we have over 100 shows in all categories. So the categories include true crime, health and wellness, sports, business, tech, finance, celebrity, reality TV. So over 100 shows, and we are ranked on Triton, which measures all the networks that opt in terms of downloads. So we are ranked number 12 or 13 with many, many millions of downloads flowing throughout our entire network, which we use for a multitude of reasons, which we can talk about as well.
And building a successful network is what attracts agents like myself for wanting to work with you. So one of the things I want to start off with is just talking about why I think it's important for content creators like yourself, those out here in the audience here, to partner with an agent and get representation. One of the first things why I think it's important is you don't know what you don't know. And there are so many things that a content creator is just focusing on the content side of things. They don't understand how the business works, how deals are negotiated, or also knowing who's looking for what. And it's my job as an agent to constantly be connecting with people like yourself and every other head of every other network around the podcasting industry to understand what they're looking for in shows, what they're looking for in content creators, so that I can tailor my outreach to them to make sure I'm presenting them with a project that actually fits.
How do you actually find your creators? How do they come out? Do they reach out to you, or is there a combination, or do you look for them?
So combination. I get a lot of clients that are fed to me through our agency. We're full-service talent agency, so we represent, Hollywood actors, comedians, directors, film writers, people that ilk. And so a lot of times it's, hey, we represent actress X, actor Y. They're interested in a podcast. Meet with them. We'll work on developing an idea, see if it fits. But a lot of my focus is just identifying people out there in the space that are either up-and-comers who I realize, hey, they have something, they have the it factor, and I feel like I can provide them with guidance and insight to help grow their brand and grow their career. Or it's identifying someone who already has an established show, whether it's a popular YouTube channel, popular podcast, but they don't have representation looking out for them and trying to find those extra monetization opportunities.
Right. So I'm curious because you do take on creators that don't have a large social following, or like if they just came to you with an idea for a show, how much work would you put into it? Does something have to be how fleshed out does it have to be?
The coming up with the idea, that's on the content creator. I use my background from being on the programming side to help them sort of like nurture the idea and get it to at least a pitchable point. At the end of the day, one of the goals of partnering with a network is that like someone like yourself will use your experience in developing and launching shows where I'm able to take something that's maybe 90% fully baked and then I bring it over to you and you go, I love this idea. This is a great idea. Here's how we can tinker this to make this successful.
Can we talk about that? Because we actually did that exact what you did, the scenario. Where we're in the process of that. So you have this show. We haven't announced. It's a celebrity. It's a well-known female celebrity, and she had an idea for a show, right? So she came to you.
Yeah. So we represented this one celebrity who's done some podcasting before in the past, but was really looking to get back into the game. And she came to me with an idea that she was looking to do. That was centered around like sort of like wives and girlfriends of athletes. Yep. And I thought it was an interesting concept, and there was definitely something there, and she had an idea for who her right co-host was. And so we started making the outreach to pitches, and we went to a handful of different networks to kind of get their feedback. And, some was good, some was bad, but the best feedback that I got was from you and your team, where you were able to say, hey, I like this content creator. I like this idea, but I think it's a little limiting, and here's how we can make this broader and more of a success.
No, I mean, for me, especially when I'm choosing shows for our network, it's about the creator first, and the idea. I mean, I always look at it as podcasts are always a work in progress. I mean, from the first show to the 30th to the 50th, it's never the same. And at this point, I've been a part of over 100 launches. I produced countless shows over the past 10, 11 years. And I rarely ever see the show in its original form. So for me, it's just it's you need to you have to constantly evolve it. But if the idea is limiting in the very beginning, you're going to limit your audience as well. So I love the idea of just making it as broad as possible to hit as many people. So we did that. When you and this celebrity pitched me the idea over Zoom, that was my feedback, right? I said, I like it. I want to do this, but here, would you consider this? And she loved that.
And then comes back to me now. It's my turn to take that feedback from you, have a sidebar conversation with the client, and be like, here's why we're getting this feedback. Here's what I think of the feedback. Here's why I think we should listen to this feedback. And then we just kind of talk it out. And if the client feels like they felt a good vibe with you, which they certainly did, and believed in the sort of course-corrected vision for the show, then it gets us to the next stage, which is like, all right, we want to partner together. Now how are we going to actually get this deal done?
Yes. So can we talk about deals?
Yeah, let's talk deals.
So I know that for us, we usually we have a couple of different deals for the most part. We produce our own shows, and for those deals, what I prefer is a partnership. I like it when everyone is equally in and they're both motivated to do the best job possible, where everything is transparent in terms of budget and our goal is to get to break even and profit as quickly as possible. And those deals are fantastic because it's truly like it's like getting married and you have to make it work. The other deals that we normally do are the marketing, distribution, and monetization deals. So for that deal, it's usually a 1-year deal, and we Cloud10 will get no ownership. The creator owns the entire show and has all the flexibility. Cloud10 is just there to monetize the show and promote the show. So we monetize and promote the shows in a way that I feel is efficient. So in terms of getting money, we have our head of sales, Saiba, who's actually my sister. She's amazing. She will go to all the different agencies and brands and pitch the show to get the high-value host-read ads. Those are the ones that command the most money. And the idea is to get as many ads that the host approves that fit with the show and the audience. And usually those are above $20 CPMs. And so those are the ones that we want the most of, because those are the ones that if they do work, and they're usually direct response. So what that means is, I know you know, but it's for everyone else that doesn't know. That means that there's usually a promo code or some type of thing that the end user has to type in a promo code, and then the results get sent back to the sponsor, and then from there they decide whether or not they're going to renew the show. So the idea is to always stack the deck and get as many renewals as possible to add value for the sponsor. And then we'll also do a combination of the host read with the just the regular programmatic, the commercials. Those don't pay as much, and they can pay a lot if you have in the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of downloads. But those are if you have inventory and you need to fill some of that inventory and you can't with host reads, then we'll put in programmatic ads. So that's how we monetize the show from an ad standpoint. Promoting the show is different. We want to be where all of the other listeners are. So we have aligned shows on our network. For example, true crime, and even like health and wellness and reality TV. They all have the same demo, mostly female demographic. So what we like to do is take promo spots of the show. We'll regularly cut 20-second promo spots and insert it in the pre-rolls of all of the aligned shows on a regular basis. So if you have a new guest coming up, you'll maybe be on a show for a week and then you'll go to the next show. So everyone that's listening to, for example, Black Girl Gone, one of our big true crime shows, you'll hear a promo spot for another show on our network on Amara's Black Girl Gone. Every day for a week, and then it'll go to another show, and the goal is to build up a sustainable audience over time, right? Because there's so many ways to if you just want downloads, there are companies here that are selling downloads. You can do that. That's not real. That's not sustainable. We want real. Right.
And you want partnerships.
Exactly. So we do that all the time. The 20-second promos are huge. Then we do something called feed drop swaps. We'll take a 3-minute clip of the show, and it'll be introduced on the feed of another show. So it's, for example, Jamie Rice, who hosts Murderish. Let's say she is introducing a clip of Amara's show, Black Girl Gone, on her feed. It would be done on a different day that she doesn't normally launch Murderish, but she would say something like, I just want to introduce a great show. It's called Black Girl Gone. They're new to the network, and here's why you like it. Here's a clip, and then it'll be on that feed. So all of Jamie's listeners are now listening to Amara's show. And then there's a call to action. There's usually links so you can subscribe to that show or follow that show easily. And we do that, once every 6 weeks. You don't want to do it all the time because then your feed just starts to look ridiculous. But you want to do that enough with the aligned shows, and they're usually swaps because what I've noticed that everyone is looking for the next good true crime show or health and wellness show. They're always looking for shows that add value, and if you do that enough, you're going to see your shows grow considerably. And the proof is in the pudding. Shows have joined our network with maybe 25,000 downloads a month, and now they have over 500,000. Just because we've been promoting it constantly. Obviously, a lot of it has to do with the quality of the show, word of mouth, all of that. You need that as well. But I genuinely feel like the networks that constantly promote your show and monetize it well, those are the ones that are going to win.
And that's sort of information that you're trading with the room right now and with me. That's part of what my job as an agent is constantly about, right? It's constantly finding out what are the ways that you can help to trigger the growth of a show. And so when I'm out pitching a show, I'm not only looking at what are the needs of your network, but I'm also looking for the idea of where does this show that my client is thinking of fit in the ecosystem of your network, right? So if I'm representing a show that is female-driven, millennials, I'm going to look for other like-minded shows on that network to fit it in. I probably wouldn't pitch a female-driven, millennial general talk show to a sports network. There's not good synergy there. It's not going to probably lead to the promotion that we're looking for.
Right.
When it comes to actually the deal points and when we get into sort of the nitty-gritty of the contract stuff, there's certain things that I, as an agent, I'm always looking to protect my clients with and make sure that they don't get taken advantage of from others. So the first thing, and you kind of referenced that before, is IP ownership. The way I go about it is this. It's either my client has 100% ownership of the IP, or it's something that we're going into a brand new project that's a co-pro, and then we're probably doing it at a 50-50. And as an agent, I'm always going to try to be like, can we make it 51-49 in my client's favor, or 60-40, because I always want them to have a little bit of an edge. The next thing that I always want to look for is the term itself, right? And oftentimes, and this is where the benefits of having an agent and a business affairs team that can really go through the language of a contract is oftentimes there's renewal clauses that get automatically baked into a contract. Those could be detrimental sometimes to a client if they don't realize that there's a 90-day clause that's automatically going to lock them in. If they haven't been seeing the results that they wanted to get out of a partnership, we need to be consciously aware of how do we get out of this deal, or how do we pivot into pitching you for a next deal. So I'm always very cautious of making sure the language is fair for both sides but protects the client. So I always look for things like 1-year deal, mutually agreed upon second-year option unless either party says something in advance by 90 days. When it comes to your rev share deals, right? And everything in our industry for the most part is rev share based. I like to look at what is the industry standard, which for the most part is around that 70-30 split. And I take that approach going into every conversation. And sometimes if a network says, hey, we're going to do 70-30 on your host read ads, but we want to do 50-50 on programmatic, we try to see if there's wiggle room on that. If they come back and say, we won't do 70-30 with you, but we'll go 60-40 across the board, I then have to start answering questions like, well, why? Why are you offering us a lower split than the general market average? What are we going to get in return for giving you that extra 10% points on the rev share split? And then after that, it is looking at all the different marketing clauses for a client. How are you going to promote it? Like everything that you said, where we're going to do promo swaps, feed drops, guest appearances on like-minded shows for the network. I'm very big on making sure that whatever the needs are of our client for the promotion and the growth of their show are in the deal. I've always been a bit of a stickler to that stuff, and I'm always referred to, if it's in the contract, the client will do it, or they're responsible, or they're held responsible. And if it's not in the contract, now it's the gray area where we have to figure out a solution.
Yeah, no, we spell all of that out as well in terms of also, we require in our contracts for the host to promote on social as well. I mean, everyone wins when everyone does what they're supposed to be doing. But I think that's important.
How do you identify what areas you're willing to bend on in a negotiation, and what are the sort of like sticking points for you and your company where it's like, I can't go lower on this split, or I can't give up this percentage point, or whatever it may be?
I mean, we'll never set a new precedent. We're never going to set a precedent, and then that's going to be, we will always stick to our guns no matter what. As soon as otherwise, then that sets a precedent, and it's going to change everything. So if we've gotten to a negotiation that's just not going to work for us, we will have to regretfully pass on the show. It doesn't even matter the size of the show or the host. For us, it's about making sure that it's fair for all of our shows, and no one is getting preference. Because I mean, all of our hosts will talk to each other.
Right.
They'll figure out that someone's getting a better deal, and then someone else. So for us, everyone is
It's pretty much like an ironclad. These are our guidelines.
Right,
There's really not much wiggle room.
Yes.
Take it or
But we're lucky. We're in that position that we can do that. We can make that choice. We don't have to take on a show just because it makes money. We are very, very, very selective about the shows that come into our network, because it's about the marketing and the curation and the way we sell the shows. And sometimes, buyers will want to buy a full category or a couple of categories together, and run campaigns throughout all of it. So it's very important that it's done in a very specific, curated way.
Now, my main goal as an agent is to find ways for the client to create more revenue for their show, whether it's through a podcast sales network partnership, looking at derivatives for spinning off into your IP into a book, or into a film, or doing subscription services or stuff like that. That's all the fun stuff. But sometimes there's some messiness that happens after a deal is done. How do you take the approach of like, hey, let's say there's a problem with a client, and you're trying to figure out, is the best way to solve this problem by going straight to the content creator, or is the best way to find a solution to this problem, talk to the agent, and then
talk to the agent first? You never. I mean, if the client has I will never sidestep. I mean, that's the protocol. If there's a problem, go to the agent, because usually the agent will figure something. You'll appreciate the fact that I came to you first, right? So we can figure it out together. Because you want to make sure everything is handled, properly, the correct way, because you don't want any resentment or I like to make sure that I like to have all the uncomfortable conversations out in the beginning, just so we avoid anything down the road. At this point, I've seen it all, and I want to make sure that I get all of those conversations out of the way in the beginning, and because there's a lot that comes up. So yes.
What are, outside of the initial deals that are done, what are ways that you like to work with agents like myself when it comes to, hey, we're doing the podcast sales deal, that's great. What are the other ways that we can continue to work with this piece of IP and make money?
That's a great question. I mean, when we get a show that gets to the point where they can actually go out on tour, that's when agencies are very helpful, because they usually have departments that can help with that, touring and making sure they can book venues all over the country. We have 3 shows right now that are going on tour, and it's fantastic, because that's the economics are I haven't seen our shows getting rich off of going out and selling out 500,000 seat venues, because there's a lot that goes into it as well. But just from the aspect of getting out there in real life and seeing your fans and interacting with them, I mean, that's priceless. You need that. They want that. So if you get to that point where you can get people to see you in person, I think that's huge.
And it's the awareness, from your standpoint, it's the awareness of, I come to you and say, hey, client X is going to go on a 6-city tour. We're booking venues in these locations. Yeah. The coordination between why an agent and a network works together is then I can come to you and say, hey, how can you sell this?
Yeah.
How can you go and find extra advertising, whether it's an added value for brands that you're already working with, or what are some potential brands that we're not already working with that we can go out to and make the outreach and sponsor it, whether it's, maybe it's a travel company, maybe it's a car company, something, maybe it's a hotel chain, something like that ties in perfectly with the talent is on the road.
Absolutely. No, I've seen that. We've had sponsor tours, just the tour sponsor as well. There's so many deals that can be structured when it comes to that. And then, you can sell we have shows that do so well with merch. They're constantly, putting out drops based on like sayings or whatever they say on the show, and then they're quickly, putting the merch. Barstool did a great job of that. They still do a good job of that. So, if the merch is another key I think that's also key as well. So you get the merchandising, you get the touring, of course, the ad revenue, books. Audiobooks. There's also now I'm also starting to license shows that are video to fast channels because they're looking for, and that's like the connected TV. So we're talking about like Samsung TV and Tubi and anyone that's looking for certain types of shows that have a elevated high-end look, not just a Zoom conversation, which by the way I'm trying to steer clear from. I can't watch any more.
Oh, you're tired of chatting with me on Zoom?
No, I'm all about no. I love talking to you on Zoom. I can't watch any more podcasts on Zoom. I just can't. I can't. The Riverside stream. I mean, I like the elevated look. I think now you need to be in some type of a room studio situation because more and more people are watching podcasts on their big screen TVs. I don't want to watch a Zoom conversation on a big screen TV. So that's we're leaning more and more towards just getting a better look for all of our shows as well.
What is something that, when you're not dealing with me, obviously, but when you're dealing with other agents, what is something that maybe frustrates you that in the is there some times where it's like, hey, I get a little frustrated because maybe other agents aren't knowledgeable of certain things, or there's certain blind spots that you feel that you run up against sometimes in conversations with agents?
It's usually the younger agents that just became digital agents. Not you. It's because it's also when you were trying to explain to them why it won't work a certain way, or how this deal can never work, or has never been struck. Or it's more like I don't like to educate the agents. I don't like that. Because it's just they should understand their job. They should understand the industry at this point. And so it's not with the seasoned agents. I mean, those are my wife's a lawyer. She says she loves working with other good lawyers because it just makes everyone's job so much easier. So yeah, that's always frustrating when there are new podcast agents that pop up and then you get to the deal stage and it just becomes a mess and it just takes much longer.
What's the one thing in a red line when you have to deal where, again, the benefits of having an agent is you have a legal team now behind you that will cut through all the red line stuff, will vet every one of your contracts. What's something that you see on a red line and you're just like, oh, come on, why are we nickeling and diming over this?
Oh, it's not usually not nickel and dime. I mean, it's not really that. It's usually the red line. It's usually when there are things crossed over that we already agreed upon. It's like they're trying to make, they're always like let's just get one more change in here to make it. And that's frustrating when we agreed on something and then all of a sudden they'll cross it out. It's like we just talked about this on the phone. That happens a lot. So you have to be careful. Always look back and make sure that everything that you talked about is on the agreement.
So what do you look at in the future of like how our business is growing, right? With more creator-owned media companies, but still the need to partner with networks that have the infrastructure and the sales components and capabilities like yourself. How do you see the future of those sort of deals coming together where client, let's say I represent a celebrity client, like I want to build a media company, but I need the infrastructure and the backing of, Cloud10?
My favorite thing to do now is build out more shows and build these little mini empires, or so to speak, for creators. So I want them to have their own, essentially, podcast networks underneath it with their one banner podcast. Almost like Bill Simmons started with one, then you got a bunch of others underneath, but they all kind of fit in a certain way. And I mentioned Jamie Rice earlier from Murderish. From Murderish, we have 3 spinoffs now. We have one called Dirty Money Moves, which is about women in white-collar crime. But these all came from one show. So now she has 5 shows underneath.
How did they determine when to do those spinoffs? Was that the agent coming to you and saying, hey, our client has hit a certain threshold on downloads. What do you think is now the time to expand? Or
in this case, it was like, how do we expand the partnership? She loves doing this, but she wants to do more. She needs our infrastructure and our help and our support to be able to do that. So we figured out a slate deal. It's like, all right, we'll do these shows. We'll figure out the budgets for these and the release dates for these. You already have promotion on Murderish feed, so you can do constant promotion there all the time. Videos on social, then we'll promote it all over our network as well, and we'll see if it works. And if it doesn't work, well, we didn't spend that much money. We can just use those resources and figure out another show. But if it does work, then we'll just keep it going. And we have like 4 shows with Jamie that are working now. There are a couple that didn't work, but we didn't care. There was no resentment. We canceled that show, started another one. The ideas have to be there. The execution has to be there. but I love doing that. That's I mean, I wish I could just do that all day, just building new shows off of existing shows and spinning them off and making them successful.
So one of the things as we get here to sort of wrap things up is one of leading to another part of why I enjoy working with networks from an agent standpoint is oftentimes we're feeding each other opportunities. So in the same where I'm pitching you projects and saying like, hey, here's a revenue generating opportunity. If we go in on this, we get a good split, we could both win. But one of the things I also like is as you build trust and partnerships with the heads of networks like yourself, you may come to me and say, hey, listen, we have a client on our network that's doing great. They don't have representation. I'm not looking to get them to sign with you to leave my network, but I want to bring them to your attention because there are derivative opportunities for this client that they're not thinking of, or they don't have the system in place and the support team to help them execute that.
Absolutely, and we were talking about this with a book deal for one of our shows.
Yep.
We're actually working with you guys on a book deal, and that's something that, and you're not repping her for anything else. It's just for that specific thing. And so, I mean, and I'm going to continue to bring you more people like that that need help in a specific area. That's a derivative.
Right. It becomes a win for both sides. I'm feeding you
exactly.
business that's going to help your
Absolutely.
network grow and make more money, and you're feeding me leads for clients under the guise of, hey, represent them in these verticals, not the one that's going to potentially screw my network. Represent me in these verticals.
Totally.
Let's do a podcast. Let's do a book deal. Let's do a way where we can get this IP and now turn into a streaming series. Or let's do this and figure out how we can build the tour around it. Because hey, so and so is interested in a tour. You don't have the capabilities to do that, but hey, Andy and his agency can. Yeah. Why don't you partner with them and they'll build a tour out for you?
Absolutely. Do we want to take a couple of questions?
I mean, if anybody has questions, we've got like 3 minutes. We're always happy to answer. If not, I can just sit here and we'll ramble off incoherently for the next 90 plus seconds.
Yeah, we have a question right there.
Hi, I'm Emma. I help support a podcast called She Pivots about women pivoting in their professional lives, usually due to a personal reason. We're with iHeart right now, and I'm just very new, and I'm just wondering, like, if you could go more into networks and, like, let's say if we're interested in, like, moving to a different one, like, what are good questions to ask, and, like, what really are networks, like, supposed to help you do versus agents and et cetera?
I mean, if I were you, I would just be asking about the host-read ads, because that pays the most money, right? So you want to make sure that they are strong. They have someone that is handling that for you, and because you don't want to just rely on the programmatic revenue. You want to make a real living. You want to get the ones that you voice yourself. So making sure that they have a strategy for that, and that you're being delivered ads, and if you're not, you can ask those questions. And then, of course, about promotion and asking about how exactly are you promoting the show, and ask them to give you specifics. They're saying we're running your show across this many impressions. You can ask them instead of the impressions. Can you tell me what shows they're on? Where in the show? Is it in the mid roll? Is it in the pre roll? Or is it in the post roll? Because honestly, if it's promotion in the post roll, it's probably not going to be listened to. No one will. Completion rates don't go usually that far till the end. So I think those are two really important questions to ask. About you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I with the promotion part, it'd also be like, what are they done for you so far? Like, if you've been with them for, let's say you're running up towards the end of your 1-year contract, have they booked you to to do guest appearances on other podcasts? We know the trick to growing a podcast is go where the people already are. Trying to promote outside of where podcast listeners are doesn't have the same positive results. So you ask them, hey, I've been with you guys for a year now. I haven't been booked as a guest for any shows. I haven't heard you guys play any of the promos or anything like that. So how do I see the results of these efforts? And if you don't like what you're hearing, that's when it's helpful then to be like, okay, maybe I should have representation, and ask my representation not only to dig into this contract to figure out, like, are there outs if I'm trapped, but take my project out there and bring it to other networks and see if the grass is greener. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Oftentimes I find a lot of our clients will be like, hey, I'm interested in moving to another network because I just don't see the results that I'm getting. And we'll move them over, and if the show can perform well, then they're going to be happy. But if their show doesn't generate a good audience, it doesn't matter what network they're a part of, they're not going to get the results.
Well said. Oh, I'm glad you brought up guests, because I didn't even talk about the guests. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was going to say that guesting on other shows also huge, and we do that on our network all the time. It's like a community, so everyone's hopping on other shows if it's a right show to guest on them, and you can build your audience that way and very quickly.
I know we got to wrap here, so if anybody has, you got questions more? Oh no, we can.
Oh, we have to wrap. We can stay if you
We'll
want to
stay
talk
and
to us
we'll stay and
after.
answer your questions
Yeah.
afterwards.
We'll stay for a bit.
Oh.
What I want to ask is, they have not speak about the Hispanic market in United States.
Yeah.
So what will be? I don't know if in your network, did you
what's
represent
we
podcasting in Spanish?
Yes. So huge market, getting bigger and bigger. There are a couple of companies that do it really well. Revolver and Sonoro. If I were you, you want to be where because they know how to take care of that.
And Sonoro's great. Use Sonoro as an example. They were great. Recently, they had reached out to me because they were aware of one of my clients that was doing a podcast, and she wasn't really part of a network. And they came to me and found out, like, hey, what would it take to have this show join our network? And so we went back and forth on here are the terms that I'm looking for length, rev share, marketing support, IP ownership, everything like that. They came back with agreeable terms and closed the deal. Now we've moved our host, who is Hispanic, moved her show from being independent to now being on a network where she has better growth opportunities and can do stuff both in English and in Spanish across the network to help promote it. Right. I believe that. Thank you everybody for showing up.
Really
if you have any
appreciate
other questions, Sim and I will be hanging out in the back.